Hello everyone! Thank you for somehow gathering with me here today at my most favorite river. Isn't she beautiful? Yeah, she is. I hope that the sound of her flowing waters is soothing to you and that you can still hear my voice. I've done a few sound checks, so I think we're good to go. This new moon in Cancer that we have coming up on July 17th is some really profound astrology happening. We've got the moon conjunct Juno, opposing Pluto, squaring the nodes. Okay. Just an hour and a half after this new moon is exact, the moon's nodes shift into Aries Libra axis. The moon is sextile Uranus in crescent phase. Venus is quincunxed Neptune and Pluto, and will be going retrograde on July the 22nd at 28 degrees of Leo until September 3rd, where she will be at 12 degrees of Leo. Venus is semi-square Juno and squaring Uranus. Mars and Pallas Athena are in Virgo, opposing Saturn in Pisces retrograde. This meeting of planets, Black Moon, Lilith, Venus, Pallas Athena, and Mars are all trining the North Node. So we have a lot going on, and the symbolism of Pluto squaring the nodes. And in evolutionary astrology, we pay great attention to the Pluto polarity point, and so this is a cross, you know, and when it's in that cardinal cross where we're talking about Cancer, Capricorn, right? Pluto is in Capricorn, or we're talking about Aries, Libra, where the nodes are shifting into. It's something that I feel very deep about because I have a lot of evolutionary lessons in the cardinal cross this time around, and so I'm just gonna lay into it, and yeah, we'll see where this goes. But first of all, I want to do a little bit more explaining about when Pluto is squaring the moon's nodes. There is an integration point that needs to happen because there has been a skip step for us collectively, all right? And this is going to manifest in a unique and individual way for everybody when applied to their own natal chart. But for now, speaking to the collective, there has been a skip step, and for us, the bottom line is that the north is that north node in Aries, ruled by Mars in Virgo, and the Pluto polarity point, which is in Cancer. So we must continually refer to our autonomy, our individuality, our instinctual expression, our conscious desires, and observe the emotional safety levels we are currently working with in navigating our individuality within relationship. It's time for us to take self-responsibility for our emotions, what and how we emote. Classic. when we dissociate or numb from our emotions, to whom we project our emotions, to whom we give our power away, by unconsciously expecting others to regulate our emotions for us, or by doing another's emotional labor for them, and thereby taking their power and autonomy from them. We can clearly see any emotional dysfunctions, shadow, being emboldened by the light of consciousness. The bubble of illusions is bursting. The reality of our inner parent-child relationship must be reckoned with. This is a time of reckoning, folks. Particularly with the past 20-ish years that Pluto has been in Capricorn. What loose ends require tidying up when we consider where we took self-responsibility for the evolutionary journey of our ego and where we didn't. And I just like to take a moment to talk about ego because, yeah, as Jeffrey Wolf Green says, you know, it has kind of become this problem that we are often hearing that it's something to be rid of or free of or something to transcend, and yeah, that's just simply not the case. The ego is a part of us that our soul consciously formed for us to be able to come on this human journey and walk our evolutionary path. And our ego needs a great amount of nurturance. Our ego needs our inner parent-child relationship in order to grow. Our ego needs attention from us. It is not something to deny or get rid of or make go away. That is the oppression of the feminine. That is the oppression of the emotional realm. And it's actually an oppression of humanity as well, because it's not taking into account natural law and how things actually are. Okay, if we try to evolve without integrating our ego, our personified consciousness is another word for it, our efforts are futile. Frankly, it's impossible. Our ego has to be okay with where we're going, people. There is always insecurity when we evolve to uncharted territory for our soul. Therefore, we must exercise authority for our lives, Capricorn, by actually laying down the new ground for which we are stepping up to, Capricorn, and take the time to feel. Contextualize, explore with baby steps this new ground with our ego. It comes right back to that dynamic of the inner child and the inner parent. How do we create safety and security for our inner child to grow with us? truth is, if we don't do so, any perceived growth is an illusion. A very painful one at that. Mars in Virgo. As we establish the new ground, we can ease our egos with the reminder that we are doing so one step at a time. In this potent and critical evolutionary threshold, it is very tempting to hop, skip, and jump into big life decisions without doing the groundwork first. Whether we like it or not, the evolutionary lesson is to get real with our soul. Pluto and Capricorn. I'm just going to pause here for a moment because earlier when I was about to press play or whatever to start this thingy, something touched my leg and I thought it was just an ant. Turns out it was this adorable, cute little frog. And so I just can't help but mention that a frog has something to say. And when I think about frog symbolism, you know, it has quite an interesting life cycle. It starts out, I actually need to research it. I don't know actually. It doesn't start as eggs and then it hatches into these little tadpoles and then, you know, they grow gradually over time. They grow the legs and then they grow into a frog. And then they can get out of water and survive on land and in water. So we're talking about the elements of earth and water here, so a very feminine energy, and can live in both landscapes and needs both. And once it arrives at that evolutionary stage of being a full frog, it can take great leaps. But not before then. So, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that, I think. Got a lot more to say. Oh, okay. Where was I? Yes. Whether we like it or not, the evolutionary lesson is to get real with our soul and be honest with ourselves about where we are at in our inner parent-child journey, in our individual expression, in our relationships, in how and why we show up in the world, and do our part. Mars and Virgo, no one is coming to save you. No one's going to come and magically make everything better. This realization is inherent in the crisis of disillusionment. And I just want to take a moment to clarify that disillusionment means without illusion. I feel like people often use that word when they're describing when they're in an illusion. I don't know, maybe it's just a me thing that I noticed that, but it's that moment of bubble bursts and we see reality for what it is. And it is clear right now. Painfully clear. In the silver lining, we realize that we can okay. Start over. In the silver lining, we realize that we can sift through the self and find the grit and gold that we need for our healing journey. It's in us. We wouldn't be where we are at in our evolutionary journey if we didn't have it in us. You know, like that. The frog it always has it in it. You know, even in the tadpole phase, it's there somehow. Does that make it less hard? Of course not. It holds us accountable, though. It gives us precision on where to focus our efforts. It gives us clarity on the next step. We may be getting glimpses of the version of us further along on our evolutionary journey, you know, the tadpole, just getting a glimpse of being that frog hopping on the log. Take them with a grain of salt and return to the reality of the present, so not to get carried away into illusion and fantasy land, where we project into the future and fall into the next grand illusion. Neptune and Saturn are retrograde. Picture a drunk person riding their bicycle home from the bar, falling off, getting badly scraped up and bruised, however, not recognizing it until the next morning when they're sober, because that's when the numbness of the drunken state has worn off. We're all having our own version of this. I encourage us all to feel the pain. Locate it in our bodies. Inspect it. Does it have a color, a shape, a sound, a name? Because we are individuals in the web of oneness, continuing to project our pain onto others is only giving us more of what we are trying to sift through to find our inner grit and gold. Y'all get it? In relationships, discern what is your mess and what is theirs. Don't clean up other people's messes. Focus on your own. Plenty of work to do there, I'm sure. There is for me. Provide them with feedback only if they ask. Carefully discern your truth, your authentic expression, and allow that to guide your direction. Taking this approach will change how we receive feedback from others. We are growing our ability to discern feedback rooted in projection from feedback that is truly for us to hear, whether we like it or not. Oh, sorry, I'm shivering a little bit because I had a cold dip before and it's a very cold river. Okay. So, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but yeah, the bottom line is that North Node in Aries ruled by Mars and the Pluto polarity point, which is in Cancer, which is all of what I've just talked about, and we integrate that through the South Node, so through Libra and Venus, and therefore that will have evolved forms of expression in our lives, and that being the Libra side of Venus. Our relationships, our ability to listen in relationships. So that's why I'm talking about how this approach changes fundamentally how we give and receive feedback to one another. I want to talk about a quote from Jeffrey Wolf Green. He always said that Pluto gives us choice. Even now, at this superbly important evolutionary threshold, with Pluto squaring the nodes, we have choice. Pluto in Capricorn, it takes a conscious choice for us to be self-responsible for how we show up for ourselves and out there in the world. With the nodes in the Aries Libra axis, we can draw upon the symbolism of a fire tornado in nature. Enough air and flame equals a fire tornado ravishing the landscape. These cataclysmic events can occur when we resist choice to the point of abandoning our evolutionary desires and intentions. At that point, the wisest choice we can make probably is to let it burn and let it ravish the landscape of our soul. Our soul cannot be destroyed. It can only transform. And therefore, we will, if we choose to do the hard work and have the hard conversations with ourselves and others, we'll start to create for ourselves a safe space where you and your inner child inside the temple of your own body. Discernment is required when creating our inner sanctuary. Trust that you know what stays and what needs to go. We are purifying our inner homes, completely gutting the house, maybe even tearing the structure down. Throughout this process, our desires will shift and change, and it may be confusing. Radical self-trust and honesty is required for us to discern and take the necessary evolutionary steps, and know that this deep inner work will have an alchemical effect on our relationships. They will transmute to new levels of expression. I'd like to talk about Venus. So she's going from ruling the North Node, which has been in Taurus, so leaning towards the Taurus side of Venus, to the South Node in Libra, so the Libra side of Venus. Then, less than a week later, she goes retrograde, which is essentially archetypally going back to the Taurus side of Venus. And this is where our primary focus is on self-sustainment and empowerment by embodying our values. It is a time where societal and traditional ways of relating are rebelled against. We're being gifted an opportunity to integrate our sovereignty into our relationships and how we relate. Because we are largely still focused inward and only practicing this integration in relationship, people can easily be misunderstood and projections can run rampant. So, in our relating, we're challenged to give others space and to take the space that we need for ourselves. Some may experience a reliving of past life or reoccurring relationship dynamics for the evolutionary purpose of working out the kinks in our relating. Venus, the lower octave of Neptune, who is also retrograde, heavily points to the high probability of disillusionment. This crisis of suddenly seeing the reality of our relationships for what they are can be a shock to the system. So we may find ourselves turning even deeper inwardly as a survival mechanism. Stay grounded by giving yourselves a 5 senses reality check. And kind of what that is going somewhere, preferably in nature, and just simply tuning into the 5 senses that we have. Feeling the earth, seeing the rocks and the moss and the trees, and smelling the fresh air of the forest, and maybe even tasting some tree sap. Just getting into our sensual body, grounded. This is what we have been mastering the past year and a half, that the nodes have been in the Taurus Scorpio axis, right? So it's continuing that. Disillusionment is painful. Suddenly, all the dissociation tactics lose their desired effect. It's painful to realize the time spent in fantasy land robbed us of truly living our unique expression or life force. It's really painful. Venus retrograde in Leo points to this time to dig deeply inward, to find our creative spark, our unfiltered, joyous expression. Dive into your relationship with your inner child. Our inner children know what's up, they survived everything that we've been through. So do we have the guts to listen to them? Or do we think that we know better? The resistance is real, because we also know on some level that once we listen, we have self-responsibility to act. These are the fine mechanics of taking our power back, folks, and it's hard work. It's hard work. The clue is where there is deep resistance, that's the next big evolutionary step that needs to be leaned into. So I challenge you to be a rebel and spend 5 minutes per day giving your inner child your undivided attention. Get out of your own way and prepare to be amazed. In the sanctity of your inner flame, let them show you how to reclaim your natural expression and integrate it into your relationships, whenever I use the word relationships, I'm talking everything, okay? I'm talking friendships, lovers, partners, coworkers, our relationships to the earth realm, everything. Tribe, community. That's how we're going to build this age of Aquarius that is coming upon us. As our current societal structures are so clearly not serving everyone, everyone has a role to play. We all have gifts, and we can't wait for the structures to fall to do something about it. And actually, I have something to say about that. I feel like that's privilege speaking, because any oppressed person will tell you that the societal structures that are meant to uphold humanity have fallen long ago. And there's no waiting. You know, the most oppressed people of our society feel things first, they feel things the hardest, and they feel things for the longest time. So if we in our privilege are telling ourselves to sit back and wait for society to fully fall before we do anything about it, is fucked. Just saying. Okay, where was I? So everyone, do your inner work so you can radiate your natural expression. Let's meet each other at the height of our natural expression and build from there. For the love of God, please. Please. Venus's aspects with this new moon are intense. Crisis will show up somehow in our experience, so I prescribe nurturing the nervous system and body as much as possible. It's summer here in the northern hemisphere, so go swimming in the lakes and rivers, dip into that freezing cold water, let that electricity just become diffused and back to mother, get your bare feet on the earth, let her electrical magnetic charge, what's the word, harmonize with yours, cleanse yours, and yeah, just take out that excess charge. Okay? I feel like I could say more. I have a lot more to say on this topic, but I'm going to stop there. And I realized that I forgot to start this video with a public service announcement. And so I guess I'll do it now. Hopefully people are still watching. Thank you if you are, by the way. I really appreciate when people listen, because I don't know, I'm doing this regardless, you know, this is my life now. But it is kind of nice to know that there's folks out there listening, you know. So I offer evolutionary astrology and energy reading support sessions for folks. I have a beautiful website, which I will link in the description below, where you can book through that website very easily. I have also added to my website a musings page where you can read articles, poetry, listen to my poetry, and just get a sense of how I merge the worlds of evolutionary astrology with plant medicine, with social justice, And yeah, it's my creative share, my creative outlet point right now. So go and have a look if you feel like it. Yeah, I think it goes without saying that these times are very intense. So take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and yeah, see you next time.